All right, let's just jump right into this explainer. Right now, across platforms like Upwork and Fiverr, there is a literal silent revolution happening. Freelance workers are integrating generative AI into their daily tasks at an absolutely astonishing rate. But the rules of engagement, well, they're completely unwritten. So today, we're going to explore the fascinating and honestly kind of messy reality of how AI is actually being used, hidden, and negotiated in the modern digital workforce.
This striking quote from a freelancer perfectly captures the secret reality of gig work right now. Survival often means adopting AI quietly. I mean, in a traditional corporate job, you've got an IT department or some HR policy guiding your software use, right? But freelancers don't have that organizational scaffolding. They're operating in these highly competitive, precarious environments where time is literally money. So asking a client for permission to use a new tool, that might just cost them the contract.
And this number brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale of the situation. Nearly 80% of freelance workers are currently using AI in their workflows just to keep up with demanding deadlines. To put that into perspective, imagine you're doing something like churning out bulk YouTube thumbnails for creators or optimizing product descriptions. The demand for speed is so high that if you don't use AI to scale your workflow, you risk losing jobs to competitors who are charging half the rate. For them, AI isn't just some fun tech experiment, it's a completely critical survival tool.
So here is our roadmap for today. 1. The secret AI workforce. 2. The expectation gap. 3. 5 ways to disclose. 4. Why AI policies fail. And 5. Designing better rules. Starting with Section 1. The secret AI workforce. Okay, what's really fascinating here is that nearly 2/3 of workers wrongly assume their clients can easily spot AI-assisted work just by looking at the final product. Freelancers often think of AI as just another standard productivity tool, kind of like Microsoft Word spell checker. Because they can so clearly see the AI's influence in their own drafts, they just operate under the assumption that if the client isn't actively complaining, it's basically a silent yes.
But here's the crucial point. There is a massive mismatch. Workers think their AI use is completely obvious, while clients actually report a very low confidence in their ability to detect it. Since freelance platforms don't have built-in AI detection tools yet, clients are essentially flying blind, scoring just over a 3 out of 5 in their confidence to spot AI text or images. So the workers are operating in plain sight, assuming they're being seen, while the clients are actually entirely in the dark.
Which brings us to Section 2, the expectation gap.
This all boils down to a fundamental misunderstanding between the two sides regarding what actually constitutes a major versus a minor task. For example, a freelancer might look at drafting an email and think, oh, that's a minor task, perfect for AI to knock out quickly. But a client? They might see that exact same customer-facing email as a major, high-stakes responsibility that absolutely requires a nuanced human touch. The worker values efficiency while the client values the end-customer relationship.
You can see exactly how this tension builds. Workers and clients actually physically map tasks like data analysis, research, and text editing on completely different ends of the spectrum. Take data analysis, for example. Workers tend to view it as a minor task, something easily offloaded to a machine, but clients often hire freelancers specifically for their human expertise in analyzing that data, making it a major task in their eyes. This misalignment, it's basically a ticking time bomb for their working relationship.
Let's move to Section 3, 5 ways to disclose.
With completely crossed wires like that, how are workers actually handling the incredibly awkward conversation of telling clients they use AI? It's a serious dilemma. Freelancers know that revealing AI use might unfairly devalue their hard work due to what researchers call effort heuristics. Basically, humans tend to judge the quality of a product by how much time and visible sweat went into making it. If a client finds out an amazing YouTube thumbnail or blog post was done in half the time using AI, they often subconsciously devalue it, even if the final output is literally flawless.
So researchers identified these 5 distinct strategies freelancers use to navigate this minefield, ranging from total avoidance to complete upfront transparency. Some workers entirely avoid mentioning it out of pure fear. Others use qualified disclosure, carefully framing the AI as just a friendly brainstorming buddy. But the really fascinating part is how the vast majority handle it.
Passive disclosure, which means only revealing AI use if explicitly asked, is by far the most popular strategy among workers. And this directly clashes with clients' desire for active updates. Workers feel that proactively announcing they used AI is kind of like bragging about using a calculator to do basic math. It just feels weird and unnecessary to them. But clients, they want to be actively informed.
We can really see the tension in the numbers here.
A majority of workers, over 53%, feel disclosure is just unnecessary micromanagement. They're thinking, look, I delivered exactly what you asked for, on time. Why do you care what software you used? But the client, who lacks the organizational control over the freelancer, feels that any hidden process is a massive potential risk to their brand or intellectual property.
Interestingly enough, freelancers are actually underestimating their clients. More clients are open to AI use than workers assume, yet the secrecy just continues. Almost 80% of clients actually want or allow AI use in some capacity because they know it drives efficiency. But because that permission is rarely made explicit before a contract is signed, workers just default to protecting themselves through silence.
Section 4. Why AI policies fail.
If everyone is so confused, you might think writing a strict AI policy is the magic answer, right? Well, the data shows these policies are currently failing miserably. Policies relying on vague language like use common sense are effectively useless and leave workers totally guessing about the actual boundaries. What is common sense to a creator using AI to generate a background texture is entirely different from the common sense of a legal consultant summarizing a contract. When clients just say, ensure human judgment, they aren't providing a policy, they are literally just shifting all the liability onto the freelancer.
And when you ask workers to read a client's policy, their interpretation of what is allowed is scattered all over the board. Outside of a strict, blanket, no AI rule, the interpretations are incredibly fragmented. When a client writes a policy trying to allow AI for minor tasks, workers have wildly different ideas of what they are actually allowed to do. The data shows this super paradoxical reaction. When policies actively encourage AI use, workers consistently underestimate what they can do. But when policies restrict AI, workers overestimate their freedom. It's wild. If a policy enthusiastically says, use AI to fully automate tasks, workers hold back, assuming it's a trap or just too good to be true. But if a policy says, no AI, workers often read between the lines and think, well, they surely don't mean for basic spell checking, and they end up overestimating their permissions anyway.
Finally, Section 5. Designing better rules.
The crucial takeaway here is that we absolutely cannot rely on blanket yes or no policies anymore. We need a complete redesign of how we communicate about AI. To fix this expectation gap, platforms and managers must provide specific, concrete operational examples of what constitutes minor AI use and implement stage-aware allowances. So instead of saying no AI, a good policy says AI is permitted for brainstorming and outlining, but is strictly prohibited for drafting the final client-facing text. You have to give people actual boundaries. And that leads us to this brilliant concept from the researchers, a disclosure ladder. This means minor proofreading requires zero disclosure, while fully automated drafting triggers an approval check. We really need to stop treating AI use as a simple binary checkbox. It exists on a wide spectrum, and our rules need to reflect that reality. By stepping away from those binary checkboxes and matching the disclosure to the severity of the AI use, we replace all that anxiety with a shared collaborative norm. Think of it like this. Step 1, if you just use Grammarly, don't even bother telling the client. Step 2, if you used AI to help structure a presentation or brainstorm thumbnail ideas, just drop a brief note in the delivery. Step 3, if an AI generated the bulk of the code you're submitting, that requires a clear process summary. This proportional model entirely eliminates the awkwardness of that passive disclosure strategy we saw earlier. Leaving you with this thought to chew on, the future of work isn't about catching people using AI. It's about building transparent systems that help us collaborate better. So, how will you rewrite your own expectations? Whether you're hiring a freelancer on a platform or doing the hard work yourself, clarity is kindness. Ditch the vague common sense policies, embrace the disclosure ladder, and start having open conversations about the tools that are literally reshaping our digital economy. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.